Let us start with the preliminary homage to the Buddha. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Let us now pay respect to the triple gem. Arahang sama sambuddho bhagava buddhang bhagavantang abhivademi. Swakato bhagavata dhammo dhammang namasami. Supatipano bhagavato sawaka sangho sanghang namami. Let us now go for the refuge to the triple gem. Buddhang saranang gacchami, Dhammang saranang gacchami, Sanghang saranang gacchami, Dutiyampi Buddhang saranang gacchami, Dutiyampi Dhammang saranang gacchami, Dutiyampi Sanghang saranang gacchami, Tatiyampi Buddhang saranang gacchami, Tatiyampi Dhammang saranang gacchami, Tatiyampi Sanghang saranang gacchami. We will now chant the observance of the 5 precepts. Panatipata veramani sikapadang samadhiyami. Adinadana veramani sikapadang samadhiyami. Kamesu micacara veramani sikapadang samadhiyami. Musawada veramani sikapadang samadhiyami. Surameraya majapamadatana veramani sikapadang samadhiyami. Let us recollect the sublime qualities of the Buddha. Iti piso bhagava arahang sama sambuddho vijacarana sampano sugato lokavidu anutaro purisa dhammasarati satta dewa manusanang buddho bhagavati. Let us recollect the sublime qualities of Dhamma. Swakato bhagavata dhammo sanditiko akaliko ehipasiko openaiko pacatang veditabo vinyuhiti. Let us now recollect the sublime qualities of Sangha. Supatipano bhagavato sāvaka sangho. Ujjupatipano bhagavato sāvaka sangho. Nyayapatipano bhagavato sāvaka sangho. Samicipatipano bhagavato sāvaka sangho. Yadidang cattari purisa yugani atta purisa pugala esa bhagavato sāvaka sangho. Ahuneyo pahuneyo dakineyo anjali karaniyo anuttara punyaketang lokasati. Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu.
Good morning, brothers and sisters in the Dhamma. Welcome to Buddhist Fellowship's Sunday service. Today, we are very fortunate to have Venerable Buddharakkhita all the way from Uganda, who will be giving us a talk titled Maintaining Both Internal and Social Harmony. Venerable Buddharakkhita was born and raised in Uganda, Africa. He first encountered Buddhism in 1990 while in India and received his higher ordination in 2002. He continued his meditation practice under the guidance of Bhante Buddharakkhita for 8 years in West Virginia. He is the author of 2 books about the emergence of Buddhism in Africa and caring for our planet. Bhante has been teaching meditation in Europe, Australia, Asia, and the US for more than a decade. Bhante will first be leading us in a 10-minute guided meditation, followed by a Dhamma talk, and will end off with a Q&A session. Let's welcome Bhante.
Good. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. My Dhamma brothers and sisters and friends, I'd like to welcome you to this talk. And we are going to start with meditation for 5 to 10 minutes. And from there, I'll give a talk, followed by Q&A. So let us start with meditation. Take a slow, deep breath to relax and oxygenate the blood. After that, you can breathe as normal as possible. As you breathe as normal as possible, see if you can bring your awareness to the whole body sitting here. Just being here in the present moment. You don't have to think about tomorrow, yesterday. You don't have to even think about the present moment. You just have to be in the present moment. Abiding in the present moment. and we are embodied beings. As we sit here, the body is present. So the body is sitting here, and the mind knows that the body is sitting. After grounding yourself in mindfulness of the body, I invite you to be aware of the breath, the body in the body, the breath body in the body. So can you be mindful of the breath from the beginning of in-breath to the end of in-breath, from the beginning of out-breath to the end of out-breath? Simply sustaining your awareness. Again, the breath can happen in the present moment, not in the past or future, but in the present moment. So can you be aware of the breath? The body is breathing, and the mind knows that the body is breathing. It's that simple. But you need to be aware from moment to moment as you breathe in and as you breathe out. Can you be aware of different sensations of breath? Sometimes as you breathe, the air touches the nostrils. It touches the nostrils, and then you feel touch sensations. Sometimes the contact is felt as coolness, as warmth, or simply touch sensations. As you tune in these sensations, what happened to it? Let's see the touch sensation. Is it staying the same, or is it changed to something else? Let's say, is it disappearing, or is it increasing? Is it decreasing? Again, we are not manufacturing anything. We're just being aware of what's going on present moment. In other words, you're paying attention to what's already naturally happening. You don't have to train yourself. All what you have to do is to be in the present moment, and everything will show. Everything will show itself to you. Everything. Whether it's the sensations, or feelings, emotions, they can happen when you're paying attention to the breath. So can you bring awareness to it? In other words, can we expand our awareness to embrace all what's going on as we're breathing out? Let's say feelings, present and neutral. Maybe it's sounds that are happening as you breathe in. If the sound arises, can it be a way of hearing? Maybe thoughts arising in the experience. Thoughts of the past, planning future, remembering thoughts of the past. Can it be a way of just thinking, thinking, thinking? don't need to put a name to what's happening. You can be aware directly. But sometimes the experience can be overwhelming, let's say with emotions. It's a fear or aversion. Can be aware of it. That's aversion. It's said sometimes that it actually mentally knowing what's happening, naming it as an anger, can disengage the situation. That's what the research says. It can bring you to more aware of what's going on, especially difficult emotions. Sometimes if your awareness feels constricted, sometimes it might be very helpful after acknowledging that. Then you can send loving kindness, beginning with yourself. May I be well and peaceful. May your beings be well and peaceful. This helps you to expand your awareness to all beings, beginning with yourself. You can stay with the practice of loving kindness for a while. Once the mind is happy, then you can go back to mindfulness of breathing and other objects. If you want to stay with loving kindness, you can continue on. May I be well, happy, and peaceful. May my friends be well, happy, and peaceful. May the neutral person be well, happy, and peaceful. May the difficult person be peaceful. May all beings be well, happy, and peaceful. Of course, you can stay with one category as long as you like. Let's say you can spend more time with sending loving kindness to your friends or parents or teachers. There's no need to rush. The key is to cultivate a happy mind that embraces all beings, including yourself. Then you can go back to the breath. With a happy mind, it's easier to watch the breath. It is easier to watch other things that happen into the mind. There's the fears, emotions, in the breath itself. May all beings be well and peaceful. Okay, let's see our meditation, and then I'll start the Dhamma talk. So, with the Dhamma talk today, I'm going to talk about inner harmony or internal harmony and social harmony. How to maintain, how to cultivate both internal harmony and social harmony. We are going to use this discourse, which is called Kosambiya Sutta in Majjhima Nikaya. It's going to serve as the backbone of our talk. I know all of you are familiar with this book, and it's discourse number 48. Kosambiya Sutta. The Kosambians, those are the people. The place is called Kosambi. So this discourse is used many, many times when we are talking about conflict and how to overcome conflict. And the Buddha gave 6 ways of maintaining harmony in a society. But when I gave the topic, I wanted to include not only how to maintain social harmony, but also internal harmony. From my experience, maintaining community harmony hinges on how individuals can maintain this kind of harmony, individual harmony. If individuals are in conflict all the time, starting with oneself, because you as an individual, you might be having conflict within yourself. Some of them can be conflicting desires yourself. You are here sitting in a room, and then you want to go to have ice cream. And then at the same time, you want to go to ice cream, and then there's another desire come. Maybe I should have yogurt. So you get caught up in a race between going to a refrigerator to go to buy, to go to get yogurt, or to go and you can't get ice cream at Jalan something. I don't know. Geelong. I'm forgetting some villages in Singapore. So Sentosa, actually, because I remember very well. So you want to have an ice cream in Sentosa, at the same time, you want to have yogurt maybe. And then you say, oh, no, what should I have at this moment? Then you stay there in conflict, yeah? Conflicting desires. Yes, so should I go to Sentosa? Should I stay home? So you just spend almost a few hours really trying to find out what you should have in that moment. But maybe for dressing also. We monks, I think, is much better for us. We just have only one color to choose from. But when I was a layman, then you get conflict. Should I put on a blue tie? Should I put a white shirt? This and that. So colors become a very conflicting area also within an individual. You say, no. As you're going outside the door, maybe I should have. I'm going to put on gray shoes. I better have a gray shirt, you know. So, I mean, if you have 20 shirts or 5 of different colors, then you're caught up in you're in conflict within yourself. As far as us, we don't have conflict with the robe because it's all the same color. Different hairstyles. You have conflicts with what kind of style you should have today. So many, you can name as long as, as many as you want. So it seems to me that the more we cultivate internal harmony and peace, can say peace, so happiness, the more we can maintain social harmony in our societies, in our families, in our communities, in our organization. Because it's simply because whether society or community or family is made of individuals. A family is made of individuals. An organization is made of individuals. So if you have a conflict within an organization, you have to look at individual, each of the person. What's the conflict they are having? What do they not understand? Is it the vision of the organization? Is it the policy? Is it a specific mission statement? They don't understand. Operations, whatever it is. So we have to really always look at individuals. And it's very, very important. As we are going through the discourse, we are going to be reminded again and again qualities that maintain social harmony, but also they apply to internal harmony. So we start with the discourse here. The discourse, it says, I'm going to read it here. Thus have I heard, on one occasion, the Blessed One was living at Kosambiya in Gosita's Park. Now, on that occasion, the bhikkhus at Kosambi had taken to quarreling and brawling, and we are deep in disputes, stabbing each other with verbal daggers. Wow, this is very interesting. The Buddha now is talking about stabbing. And if we talk about stabbing, we know that there's a weapon, definitely. Something goes to the stage of stabbing, that means a weapon. So, in other words, they were using the tongue as their weapon. Not a tool to communicate, but as a weapon. That's what Buddha is talking about, verbal daggers. They could neither convince each other nor be convinced by others. They could neither persuade each other nor be persuaded by others. Now, this is a full-fledged conflict. Nobody can help. The background story of this sutta, we find it in the Vinaya actually. Here, they don't talk about it. Maybe in a comment, they might talk about it. But actually, let me tell you the background story regarding this discourse. To be very, very important for us to know the background. The background shows what is going to happen. Buddha's approach, you will see exactly to make a lot of sense. Now, here they didn't tell us discourse here what kind of conflict it was, but the background story tells us in Vinaya. So there were two monks. One was an expert in the Dhamma, another one was an expert in Vinaya. This is what the Buddha taught, Dhamma Vinaya. So they seem to have some monks who specialize. They specialize, just like doctors, they specialize dentists, then there is dermatologist. Yeah. So now, in Buddha's teaching also, we have monks who specialize in these areas. One is in the discipline, one is in the doctrine. So one of them who had specialized in the Dhamma, the teaching of the Dhamma, but of course was a bit not so conversant with the Vinaya. Of course he knew, but not as an expert, right? Expert always they know many details, But this monk had was a Dhamma expert, used a toilet and used some water and left some. According to Buddhist teaching, the Buddhist Vinaya, for monastics, we should not leave water. That gives you a background. It's very old use. Of course, now we have laboratories with fresh, but old ones, and then many, I think, in Asian countries like India and Thailand, there's always some water you have to put. But the rule is, if there's a container there and there's water there, you should not leave any water behind and use half of it and you say, oh, I'm going to leave some water. You should use all and empty all together, but this monk didn't. And this one, who was specialized in Vinaya, identified the issue and told, he informed the other one who was more conversant with Dhamma, that this is a minor offense. The Buddha called these kind of offenses very minor, not major offenses. Of course, this one can be confessed, and so it's not a big deal. But at any rate, we have to be observed as monastics. So now, this monk was an expert in Dhamma, admitted his mistake. And he said, yes, this is a minor offense. So he admitted. But the one who actually an expert on Vinaya, very, very picky, and mostly they're very picky. And they said, no, this is not very good. And he started revealing this information to his followers, supporters, disciples, and the information went in all these less supporters, and both of them had good supporters. The one who was an expert in the Dhamma, also an expert in the Vinaya. Both of them had many supporters, and they were senior monks. So now it went to many, many people, and the net effect is that the followers of the senior monk who was expert in Dhamma, they lost faith. And of course, the senior monk also lost faith, because this guy was saying, the Vinaya expert, oh, this well-educated monk, he doesn't know even a minor rule like that. In other words, we're blaming a monk who is senior like this and an expert in doctrine, but cannot even remember or know a minor rule like that. So this actually was the cause of this conflict. Now, people got divided into two groups, those who support Dhamma expert and those who support Vinaya expert. The rumor went, and now they were at loggerheads, very, very bitter. And nobody can settle them. That's why in the discourse they say nobody can persuade them, including the Buddha. The Buddha actually came. Buddha came, and then he told them, please, as we are going to see, settle your stuff, and then come back to your senses. They even disobeyed the Buddha. The Buddha had to leave. The Buddha had to leave, actually. And the Buddha left at a place near Kosambiya, and he stayed there until the Wasa ended. But Buddha left because these monks could not even listen to the Buddha. Anyway, we are going to, if you're interested in background story, you can really look at the one in Vinaya, and then you can read more, because there's a lot of information on what happened and all that. So let us go to the sutta itself now. We can pick up from where we stopped now, verse number 3. Then a certain bhikkhu went to the Blessed One, and after paying homage to him, he sat down at one side and informed him of what's happening, what was happening. That's the quarrel, they're quarreling each other. When the Blessed One addressed a certain bhikkhu thus, "Come, bhikkhu, tell those bhikkhus in my name that the teacher calls them." "Yes, Venerable Sir," he replied. And he went to those bhikkhus and told them, "The teachers call the Venerable Ones." "Yes, friend," they replied. And they went to the Blessed One, and after paying homage to him, they sat down at one side. The Blessed One then asked them, "Bhikkhus, is it true that you have taken to quarreling and brawling and keep in disputes, stabbing each other with verbal daggers, that you can neither convince each other nor be convinced by others, that you can neither persuade each other nor be persuaded by others?" They accepted. "Yes, Venerable Sir," they accepted. That's what they have been doing. Many times the Buddha asked, have you been mixing like water and milk? Buddha always wanted his disciples to have that kind of harmony whereby they're mixing like milk and water, not water and oil, because water and oil is always separate, right? But milk and water, they all mix together. So now the Buddha was asking them what they've been doing. So then that's what they've been doing. So the bhikkhus, now the Buddha is going to continue to address the bhikkhus, quotes and quotes. "What do you think? When you take to quarreling and brawling and are deep in disputes, stabbing each other with verbal daggers, do you on that occasion maintain acts of loving kindness by body, speech, and mind in public and in private towards your companions in the whole life?" They say, "No, of course." "No, Venerable Sir." So now the Buddha is introducing how we should practice, of course, metta here. We should practice metta in 3 ways. 1, physically, verbally, and mentally. The 3 ways of practicing metta. So now he's asking them, have you been doing so while you are quarreling and all that? Of course, they are not doing so because ill will. What they are having is not goodwill. They are having ill will. In other words, they are ill. Their will is ill. I mean, their will is ill. He is asking them, have you been doing all these kind of things and at the same time practicing loving kindness through body, speech, or mind? Of course, definitely no, because somebody who's quarreling must have, their will must be ill. So they should have good will. So they said, no, of course, you can only be quarreling and then at the same time cultivating loving kindness. Because one is the opposite of the other. Ill will is the opposite of goodwill. So at that time, they didn't have goodwill. They had ill will. Now, the Buddha continues here. So, bhikkhus, when you take to quarreling and brawling and are deep in disputes, stabbing each other with verbal daggers, on that occasion, you don't maintain acts of loving kindness of body, speech, and mind, both in public and private towards your companions in whole life. Yeah, of course, definitely. Buddha was saying, it was really saying exactly that, okay, when you're doing all those quarreling, you cannot practice metta. And so this is what exactly Buddha was saying. He continues to say, misguided men, Mogga police and Pali. We find this one normally when Buddha is admonishing his disciples who don't follow his teaching. You know, Buddha's teaching, he said that even if, in the simile of the saw, even if they are to cut you with a double-edged saw, like somebody is amputating your legs, you should not utter words of harshness, you know. And that's verbal daggers, harsh speech, you know. The word harsh, it means rough. It originated from, of course, long time ago in English, and it was having a connotation with texture, which is rough. And of course, something rough. And if your speech is like that kind of texture, literal, of course, I checked the word harsh also means literally hairs. But some hairs maybe not rough, but one can get the concept that is not some rough hair, maybe hairy, like that. So anyway, we continue with what the Buddha is telling them, that you are misguided men. What can you possibly know? What can you see? Okay, that you take to quarreling and brawling and are deep in disputes, stabbing each other with the verbal daggers, that you can neither convince each other nor be convinced by others, that you can neither be persuaded, can neither persuade each other nor be persuaded by others. Misguided men, that will lead to your harm and suffering for a long time. Now, of course, we know when you're in disputes and you're disputing yourself with others, that plants more seeds for hatred. And of course, hatred comes with along other mental states. It comes along with mental states such as delusion, confusion, ignorance, in other words. So you're in disputes, that means there's some ignorance there going on, there's hatred going on, and also frustrated desires. So these are already mental states that actually pollute the mind and can lead to suffering in your life. And also, in other words, harming you also, because when you have ill will and ignorance, that means you are defiling your mind. And when the mind's defiled, then it cannot, it's under stress. And then once the mind is under stress, then you're suffering. And so you are suffering in this present moment, and also in future you're suffering, because next time when this happens, more triggers to disputes and quarreling, then you are going to have a stronger defilement than before. So in other words, it degrades your mind, it defiles your mind. So this is exactly what the Buddha is trying to say, that it's going to bring you, to lead to your harm and suffering for a long time. So now, paragraph number 6. Of course, here Buddha has identified what's happening, warning them that you're going to suffer. But of course, these monks didn't listen. They preferred to continue on with disputes and all these things. Buddha, of course, now in verse number 6, is going to teach them how to overcome these issues, how to overcome these disputes using his teaching. And of course, the same thing we need to practice in order to maintain internal harmony, as we're going to see. But the background story is very, very interesting, because actually not until these lay supporters on both sides of the monk boycotted giving food and support to the monks, did they give up their views, the attachment to views and their disputes. They gave up the dispute after they have suffered, because the lay supporters decided not to give them food. They say, Because of your action, the Buddha didn't come back. Buddha went away, he didn't come back to Kosambiya because of your actions. He told you, and you didn't listen. So the Buddha did come back after he went out because of your, in other words, went out to Kosambiya because of your disputes, because you didn't listen to him, and also he did come back. And for us, we want our teacher, and our teacher is nowhere to be seen. It's because of you monks who are quarreling. So they stopped actually giving food to the monks, and the monks went to the Buddha and settled their disputes and all these things, and Buddha taught them. So that's what is in the background, though not stated here, but in the Vinaya stated. Okay, let's continue with verse number 6. When the Blessed One addressed the bhikkhus thus, bhikkhus, there are these 6 principles of cordiality that create love and respect and conduce to cohesive, to non-dispute, to concord, to unity. What are the 6? So here we have some kind of things that we have to remember. Love and respect is very, very important. You have to create that in a community. Cohesion is very important. Harmony is very important. Concord and unity. That's a community. The word community has the word unity at the end. That means if you are to live in a community, unity is very, very important. Okay, the Buddha here gives them, of course, there are 6 of them. Here, a bhikkhu maintaining bodily acts of loving kindness, both in public and in private, towards his companion in holy life. This is a principle of cordiality that creates love and respect and conduces to cohesive, to non-dispute, and to concord and to unity. I may not repeat these qualities, starting from love and respect. That last sentence, this is the principle of cordiality that creates love and respect. I'm not going to repeat it because it's repeated verbatim in every 6 conditions or principles that leads to cordiality. I'm not going to repeat it, but I will just mention this because it's so repetitive. So here the Buddha was saying you should practice loving kindness. Loving kindness, of course, we send it loving kindness to your friends, to others, and all beings to maintain a social harmony. But actually, it starts with ourselves. That's why I say that it all starts with ourselves by cultivating loving kindness towards yourself. Once you have loving kindness towards yourself, then it is easier to send loving kindness to others. So this is very, very important, not only mentally, when we send loving kindness to others, we actually start with, of course, on a mental level, but ultimately it means, or it translates when we talk. When we talk to people, we should say the truth. We should talk in a way that is not divisive, even when there's a disagreement. But disagreements should not divide us. We should always agree to disagree and find concord and unity. Of course, the way we talk, kindness, meaningful, what we're saying should be meaningful. All those are just conditions, the way we talk, that creates harmony through loving kindness. And of course, with our physical behaviors should also be, of course, based on loving kindness. That's what the Buddha was talking about here. When we have this practice, we can begin to find kind of peace within ourselves, harmony internally. We can begin. Even when we are sending this to the people, radiating loving kindness to others, it has a boomerang effect to us. When we say, may all beings be well and peaceful, it comes to you. You become peaceful also. In other words, you become a shareholder. in this kind of practice. You don't send loving kindness and then you start suffering. No. The more you send loving kindness to others, the more you maintain internal harmony. We go to another one. The Buddha gave, of course, he repeats it 3 times for loving kindness. We go to another verse that gives another factor. Again, a bhikkhu uses things in common with his virtuous companions in the holy life without making reservation. He shares with them any gain of a kind that accords with the Dhamma and has been obtained in the way that accords with the Dhamma, in other words, righteous ways, including even the mere contents of his umbrella. This too is the principle of cordiality that creates love and so on. Now, this is a practice of course, sila, virtue. Though this is in the context of monks who are keeping the 30, the 227 rules for monks. But this is also applying to lay people. 5 precepts that when you practice them, it maintains internal harmony. Let's say when you abstain from not killing. In other words, the positive side of that is to cultivate compassion and loving kindness. That in itself brings internal harmony. Though you are actually saving lives in a society, but actually you're saving life yourself also. It doesn't bring conflict between you and the society, in other words. So this is very, very important to remember. I'm not going to talk about each and every 5 precepts, but maintaining that in a community, there's an organization, you all agree that, okay, we're going to prepare to create these 5 precepts. That's in a social context, but individually, you're an individual. You have to practice them. And now you maintain that internal harmony. And all of you in a social setting, you be on the same page, you know. Not one keeps 1.5, another one keeps 2.5, another one keeps 3. And then when another one who keeps 5 sees you, and points out, you are broken number precept, maybe number 2. He said, no, for me, I agree to take only 1. So this kind of thing can lead to disharmony, you know. But if you actually all maintain this kind of precept, I think that will maintain this kind of internal harmony, and that can be also extended, of course, to social harmony. So this is very clear. I think there's no more to talk about this. Let me see. His virtuous companion in the holy life making this is common virtue, right? Now we should go to number 6. But they gave a very, very good example here of sharing something. And again, you have gained in a righteous way, including the mere contents of his alms book. Of course, this one also can be extended to whatever you gain in a righteous way, your livelihoods, you should share with others. But this reminds me of a practice that is now here in Sri Lanka. There's a monastery in Sri Lanka. When you go and get food, you put in your alms bowl, and then before you start eating, you start sharing actually with other monks. Now, when I was in Sri Lanka, I went to that monastery, and being an African monk, and most Western monks, they want brown rice more than white rice. I knew from my time I stayed in the United States that white rice is deprived of nutrients. So I wanted also to take a brown rice. And that's what I was putting in my alms bowl. Not put white rice in my alms bowl. No way. Now I go to this place, they're practicing this, giving the contents of your alms bowl. Now you give one spoon of brown rice. The other monk who's from Asia, because there were more Sri Lankan monks, they'll throw back 2 spoons of white rice. So at the end of the whole ritual, you have more white rice and less brown rice. So, well, first I wanted to know, where did this practice came from? Actually, when I read the book, I came back to read this sutta. It's exactly that's what they're practicing there every day. All the senior monk and all the monks, they all exchange what they have got in their alms bowl every lunch time. It's done lunchtime. So anyway, the net effect of this kind of sharing creates some kind of cohesion in the society. I don't know if that's the practice you should also start doing. Yes, yeah, but that's where you see, because all of us, we have a certain kind of food we like. Others like dumpling, others this and that, tofu. Like, so, I mean, when next time I come at BF, I think it will be very good practice where you share after getting food in your plate, and then you share with all the people, members of BF. You think, you see exactly what it creates in your mind, where you feel, wow, I've given the best I have to another person. Anyway, that was something I saw happening practically. Okay, we continue. Again, a bhikkhu dwells both in public and in private, possessing in common with his companion in the holy life those virtues that are unbroken and torn and all. Okay, so use the things in common with his virtuous companions. That was before. Okay, this, I think we go a little bit back. The other one was more the practice of dana. Let me see, common companion in whole life. All right, and misapprehended condition. Okay, the other one was sharing. The first one I was talking about, because use the things in common with his virtuous. So now that was the practice of dana. So then the next one is the practice of sila, both in public and private. Yes, common, possessing in common with his virtues. Yeah. So now the first one is dana. The one I explained prior to this was actually practice common generosity. Yes, I mixed them. Sorry about that. But actually, this one, the first one I explained to you was the practice of dana. I gave you an example of food. Yeah, an alms bowl. Yeah, but then this one is the practice of common precepts. All right. Of course, this refers to the monks, 227 rules. Again, a bhikkhu dwells both in public and private, possessing in common with his companion in a holy life those virtues that are unbroken. So this is about sila. Virtues, it can be 5 precepts for the lay people, it can be 10 for the novice monks, it can be 227 for monks. So you make sure that you maintain a similar virtue in the community. Here the Buddha continues and say, it's untorn, unblotched, unmotted, liberating, commended by the wise, not misapprehended, and conducive to concentration. Now, this virtue that Buddha is talking about, though I told you it's in the setting of a monastic rules, but actually you can extend it to any virtue that can maintain internal harmony. For instance, when you keep the 5 precepts and then you reflect, there's that kind of freedom from remorse. And freedom from remorse, according to Buddha, it leads to gladness, pamoja. From gladness, it will lead to joy. From joy, it leads to tranquility. From tranquility, it leads to happiness. And then from happiness, it is leading to concentration. Already here, the Buddha is saying, and conducive to concentration. So that means whatever practice that you do properly, and you reflect on that, there's no remorse. And then you get this gladness, joy, and so on, that leads to concentration through, of course, happiness. But of course, when the Buddha talks about that as liberating, then you can go where from concentration, it become a cause and condition for seeing things as they really are, yata bhuta jnana dasana. Then from there it leads to this disillusion, then dispassion, and then nibbuti, liberation, vimutti, liberation. So that's why the Buddha is talking about that it's liberating. So this kind of mental states that arise from being virtuous, and they reflect on that, of course, then when you maintain this kind of virtue, then it brings that kind of internal harmony. You know, when you of course you practice something that leads to concentration, that means there's no restlessness, there is no greed, there's no, at least temporary, there's no ill will, there is no sloth and torpor, there's no doubt. Then you can see there's already that internal harmony. And also, of course, people around you, when you do practice good virtue, it also, if it's being upheld in the community, so there's that also social harmony because everybody is holding the same kind of virtues. So then we continue. Again, a bhikkhu dwells both in public and private, possessing in common with the companions in the holy life, that the view that is noble and emancipating and leads one who practices in accordance with it to the complete destruction of suffering. This kind of views, like the view about the noble eightfold path, I mean the Four Noble Truths, that's something that one holds. And if with the noble, then you are looking at somebody who has even attained first level of enlightenment, stream entry, to be able to have that noble view, you know. So this is more higher than normal, ordinary. This is more high. It's higher than ordinary views that we may hold. So this is noble. Definitely, we are talking about the Four Noble Truths. Of course, there's other views about dependent origination, about the law of karma, about impermanence, suffering and non-self. All those are good views to hold, but really something noble that leads to destruction of suffering. We are talking about the Four Noble Truths. And that's what we see in the Noble Eightfold Path. The first one is right understanding. Right understanding of what? Right understanding of the Four Noble Truths. So again, the discourse says this too is the principle of cordiality that creates love and respect and so on. Okay, we continue on the sutta length a bit. These are the 6 principles of cordiality that create love. I'm not going to repeat that. We go to verse number 7. Of these 6 principles of cordiality, the chief, the most cohesive, and the most unifying is this view that is noble and emancipating. And that's which leads to one who practices in accordance with it to the complete destruction of suffering. Just as the chief, the most cohesive and the most unifying part of the pinnacled house is the pinnacle itself, so too the 6 principles of cordiality, the chief is this view that is noble and emancipating. In other words, the view of, okay, the suffering, cause of suffering, happiness, and the way to happiness is the highest So all others, they just join. They join like view of other factors like virtues, generosity, loving kindness. All of them are just culminating into this view. And of course, when you look at the background of the discourse, people had disputes because of the view. One had a strong view about that minor rule. And you see how it caused a lot of disputes. And in life, actually, in general, we found out disputes not come from big causes. Usually it's just a slight thing, small one. It might be not putting a chair in the right position. You stay with somebody and say, I need the chair near the wall. Another said, no, I need it near the window. Boom, that's a disputes there, right there. Small things, very minor things, I'm telling you. And I've seen it actually leave alone disputes in general, even things that causes accidents with the airplanes. It's usually a small thing, like even when you look at Concorde. Concorde, I read a story that it was going on a runway, and then British Airways had just passed on a runway. And there was a small particle that came from the tire of British Airways, and it went into the engine of Concorde. I mean, it just destroyed the whole enterprise of Concorde, and it was shut down. Small thing after small thing, talk about dependent origination. One small thing cause these things. It became a chain reaction after this, and something turns out to be very big. So you be careful of small things. And the Dharma said that if you think that small things don't matter, sleep with a mosquito, in one mosquito, in a mosquito net. And for me, I know that because in Uganda, there's a lot of mosquitoes, and only one mosquito goes into your mosquito net. I'm telling you, can't sleep very well. Yeah, so most people, when there are things that show that there's going to be their potential for the conflict, but people ignore them. And then one thing after the other, it becomes very big. This conflict, the Buddha could not even undo it right away. It took a while before he settled it, Anyway, we continue. Number 8. And how does this view that is noble and emancipating can lead to the one who practices in accordance with it to the complete destruction of suffering? And I'm going to read it here straight away. Here, a bhikkhu gone to the forest and so on tree, and with a heart consider that, is there any possession and abundance in myself that might so obsess my mind that I cannot know or see things as they really are? In other words, if a bhikkhu is obsessed by sensual desire, we are going to talk about all the 5 hindrances, because otherwise it's repetitive. It's okay, the 5 hindrances, you know them: the sensual desire, ill will, restlessness, worry, sloth and torpor, and doubt, right? So here, I'm going to just continue here. If a bhikkhu is obsessed in speculation about this world, then his mind is obsessed. If a bhikkhu is obsessed in situation about the other world, then also they are obsessed. If a bhikkhu takes a quarreling and so on, in deep in disputes and so on, then his mind is obsessed. In other words, he's referring now to these monks who are disputed, because that's what they're doing. They were using what you call verbal daggers, using their tongue, stabbing each other. So I will continue with the verse. He understands thus there is no obsession and abundance in myself that might so obsess my mind that I cannot know and see things as they really are. Yata Bhutana Jana Dasana. My mind is well disposed for awakening to the truth, right? This is the first knowledge. Here, Buddha give about 7 knowledges, but this knowledge seems to be talking about somebody who has attained the stream entry. They possess this what you call noble supermundane and not shared by ordinary people. This one is things to understand. I will just read it for the sake of finishing the course, the discourse, but it's just 7 of them, and Buddha's going one by one. I hope I can do that in 6 minutes. I want to leave time for Q&A. Okay, Buddha was referring to the first knowledge attained by him that is noble. When we start talking about supermundane and noble, then we talk about the stages of enlightenment. The first stage, second, third, fourth, but in this case, the first stage of which called stream entry, and it's not shared by ordinary people. Number 9, verse number 9. Again, a noble disciple considers thus: when I pursue, develop, and cultivate this view, do I personally obtain serenity? Do I personally obtain quenching? Quenching what? Defilements. Serenity is a concentration. Yes, then they ask like this. So understand that when I pursue, develop, and cultivate this view, I personally obtain serenity, I personally obtain quenching. This is the second knowledge. In other words, the view, of course, that this is the first noble truth, second noble truth, third noble truth, and all these things. So when you have a right view, you gain internal confidence, in other words, serenity. Your mind's calm. So it talks about the second knowledge attained by him. That's the first time extreme interest sees the Four Noble Truth. Still to see it more in different stages until he fully realized them, but that's the first time. So that's what's called noble. It's very, very important to know that. Number 10, again, the noble disciple consider thus: is there any other recluse or Brahmin outside the Buddha's dispensation possessing a view such I possess? So in other words, of course, they're outside Buddha's teaching. We found out different traditions. They made no suffering and the cause of suffering, but only not in a very deep way as it's seen, as is taught by the Buddha. So even when there are others outside, but they are not possessing the same view, the view of the Four Noble Truth. You can only find it in Buddha's dispensation. Once you know that, you're convinced that, okay, I possess that one, then you understand that there is no other recluse or Brahmins outside Buddha's dispensation possessed of this view that I possess. That's the third knowledge attained by him, and so on. Verse number 11. Again, a noble disciple considers thus: do I possess the character of a person who possesses the right to view? What is the character of a person who possesses the right to view? These are the characters. This is the character of a person who possesses the right to view, although he may commit some kind of offense for which a means of rehabilitation has been laid down by the Buddha. This is actually monastic rules, that some of them, you stop to be a monk for the first 4, called parajikas, rule of defeat, but they have others that the Buddha say if you commit them, like the one which was being committed there, you could actually amend them. You can amend them, and that's what the Buddha is talking about here. That's the character of a person, although he may commit some kind of offense for which a means of rehabilitation has been laid down, still he at once confesses. Still, he at once confesses, reveals, and discloses it to the teacher or to the wise companion in the holy life. And having done that, he enters upon restraint for the future, just as a young tender infant lying prone to, at once draws back when he puts his hand or his feet on a live coal. So too, that's the character of a person possesses the right to view. Of course, this is a very strong simile, how one shrinks when he's facing this hot coal, but this is one of the qualities of a stream enterer. When they commit something, they confess it and they determine not to do the same thing in the future, they amend according to Dhamma and they practice the Dhamma. So this is what monastic also do. Even if they have not attained the stream entry, that's what the Buddha told us. If you do something wrong, you confess it to your fellow monks and determine not to do the same thing again, and then you do good. So that's what the Buddha teaching is all about. But as a quality of a stream enterer, they cannot keep quiet about something they've done because they have attained the noble right view. Okay, number 12. Okay, how are we doing with the time? Okay, I think we have a few more minutes. Okay, again, a noble disciple consider thus: do I possess the character of a person who possesses right to view? What is the character of a person who possesses right to view? This is the character of a person who possesses right to view. Although he may be active in various matters for his companion in whole life, yet he has a keen regard for training in a higher virtue, and so on. This is called Adisila, Samadhi, Adipanya. In other words, higher virtue, higher concentration, and higher mind. That's wisdom. In other words, you train. You don't give an excuse. Oh, I've been viewing monastery, I've been giving Dhamma talk, and I cannot teach. You don't give an excuse like that. The person will always give higher priority to teaching, to training into the Buddha's teaching of Sila, Samadhi, and Panya in higher levels so that they can really practice and overcome their defilements. Just as a cow with a new calf, while she grazes, watches her calf. So too, that's the character of a person who possesses right view. In other words, a stream enterer, they will do other things, but they cannot give up their practice. They should always come back to their practice, just like a cow. All right, we continue on. He understands that I possess the character of a person who possesses right view. This is the fifth knowledge attained by him, and so on. 13, verse number 13. Again, a noble disciple consider that: do I possess the strength of a person who possesses the right view? What is the strength of a person who possesses the right view? This is the strength of a person who possesses the right view. When the Dhamma and discipline proclaimed by the Tathagata is being taught, he heeds it, gives it attention, engages it with all his mind, and hears the Dhamma with eager eyes. Actually, that's why the stream enterer are called Savaka. Savaka, listeners. The word sota means ears also, but of course that's physically the ears, but those people are called Savaka. Those who are listeners. Not hearing is not enough. You have to listen to the Dhamma, right? So this is a quality that's very important to stream enterer, to hear the Dhamma. Others maybe listen, it goes in this ear and goes the other way. Yes, what was Bhante talking about? He was talking about something. So what? Because it just went here and went through here. But those people really listen and internalize it. That's a quality. Now, he understands, of course, this is sixth knowledge and the seventh knowledge. Again, a noble disciple consider and so on. Then I continue. I'm just going to ignore that thing that repeats itself. Then it goes straight away to when the Dhamma and the discipline proclaimed by the Tathagata is being taught, he gains inspiration in the meaning, gains inspiration in the Dhamma, gains gladness connected to the Dhamma. He understands that that's the seventh knowledge. Finally, when a noble disciple is thus possessed of the seven factors, he has well sought the character for the realization of the fruit of stream entry. When a noble disciple is thus possessed with the seven factors, he possesses the fruit of stream entry. In case you wanted to know the difference between stream entry, the path and the fruit. So here, those are 7 factors you add on, and somebody gets the fruit of stream entry, full-fledged stream entry. That is what the Blessed One said, and the bhikkhus were satisfied and delight in the Blessed One's words. That's the end of the discourse in 1 hour and 14 minutes. And now I'm going to open it to Q&A. So I hope you can maintain internal harmony and social harmony using some of these things in the Kosambiya Sutta. Of course, as I told you, that practices like loving kindness, virtue, generosity, and views, right views, maintain internal harmony also, and also social harmony.
Thank you, Bhante, for the insightful talk. We currently have 4 questions, but Sabrina, do you have any questions that you'd like to ask? Okay, then we'll start off with the first question. So, Bhante, how can one maintain harmony in a company if some people in it do not contribute much to the work?
Wow. Now, I know when you are working on a similar project, there are 4 people that I find out, even in organization like Uganda Buddhist Center. One who has the view, the founder, the EXCO members, those who have view, I mean the vision. There they don't call views, but we call them vision of the organization. Those when they do the work of the organization. But some of those people, there's those also who buy the vision. In other words, then also they work. But we have 2 more categories that I found out problematic. The third one, I told you the first one is the one who they have the view. They have the view of the organization. The president, what. But also there are followers who come every time, they work. So I call that category by the view. They bought the view, the vision, of the organization, and they work, they put on their work. And this is actually my teacher, Bhante Buddharakkhita, that talked about these kind of things. He wrote them in a paper, and I found out very interesting in this organization. Now, the third one is they don't lift a finger. They don't do anything. I mean, they come, the organization, they seem to understand what's going on, but they decide not to contribute anything. That's the third one. But I think the fourth one, I think, is the worst. The fourth one is actually they oppose the vision. This, in other words, they work in the opposite way. But I think your question is more of the third category, those who don't work, who don't contribute to the vision of the organization. Actually, I've been thinking about this yesterday, actually, also. In my organization, in our organization, we have them. So now, how I maintain harmony about these people? I didn't read this one anywhere in the scripture or whatever, but I tried to find out how am I going to be guided to make sure that I maintain internal harmony. I see this person is my teacher. This is my teacher is teaching me something to be more patient with this person. Because sometimes I just feel that I say, this guy, can you go actually leave today? This is what I feel like telling you, please go. I don't see your contribution at all. But then I say, oh, I'm in this Dhamma world. This person let this person be my teacher, Dhamma teacher, where I can restrain myself, exercise compassion, exercise patience, exercise all the 10 parameters. Wisdom, determination, patience, equanimity. So I see this as an object teaching me those 10 paramis. 10 paramis. That's the first thing. Otherwise, many times I want to tell this person actually, in Uganda Buddhist Center, I want to tell, please, can you leave, please? I'll call you after 3 years. But I said, no, this person continue to teach me equanimity, patience, and all that. Another way to maintain it, really this helped me, I'm telling you. I can stay with that person after 1 month, 2 months, but I know it's not doing exactly what I want them to do. But I say, yes, let them stay there. They're teaching me something. Then another way, when I look at this one, this person or these people, I say, okay, now let me increase more on the people, the first one and second, the category, the one who has vision and the one who buys, in other words, those who are working, and let me just put this aside. The one who's fighting the view, vision, the one who doesn't want, let them just be there. And let me look at, in other words, this keeps me hope. Let me find good things they are doing. When I really focus on some good thing they're doing, they may not contribute the way I want. I found out actually there's a little bit of contribution they're doing that if they're not there, I'll be in a problem. Now, one of the things that I found out is their presence. Their presence, being present in a particular place. Just by being there, okay, they're physically there. And I go maybe somewhere, Kampala or somewhere. I say, this person at least is there physically, but it's not doing the work I told them to do, but at least I can count on their presence. I mean, for this one, for me, it helps me to find a silver lining in every cloud. I think that's what I do. You find always those people don't contribute. You really find, if you really sit down, you find out something. Either you admit, okay, these are going to be my teachers, and every day, so that they teach me about patience and all the 10 paramis, or you look at, okay, let me every day look for something good they're doing. You find out there's actually something they're doing. It may not be significant like others, but you always find out something. And that keeps going, your hope going. I think that's what I can answer in a short time like this.
Thank you, Bhante. Now the second question. So what should one do when one is unable to express one's views with the fear that one will be marginalized?
Actually, this is a question about fear. Always being you're afraid that you'll be marginalized. This, I think that's really underlying that question is somebody's afraid to express their views because they feel, oh, it's going to be, they put it down. They say, oh, there's no substance in them, and all this kind of thing. So I think work on your fear first. Fear of the unknown. Have courage. That's the first answer to your question. Have courage to express yourself. I think there's something which I remember that used to keep me going, is that never be afraid to say what you feel, because people who mind don't matter and people who matter don't mind. I got a quote somewhere. Yeah, never be afraid to express what you feel, because people who mind don't matter. In other words, people who will mind what you're doing don't matter, but people who matter don't mind. In other words, if people really matter, they won't mind expressing, even if something very trivial. They'll just say, yes, he has contributed something. Okay, I would really do something. First thing is to work on my fear, because that's about fear. You are afraid of expressing something. So have courage to express it. Go and express it. That is not going to be the end of the world. Don't worry about, okay, people, how they're going to interpret it. You just express it. Now, another approach I give you is that if you're asked to give you an organization, and I've been for me in a big organization in USA whereby I was the only African, and people had more views, but once in a while I throw my view. and it looks insignificant, but I didn't give up. I just keep going. So in other words, keep doing. Forget about insignificant or not. Just keep doing what you think you're doing. Okay, the third one, and I think that also comes to courage. Actually, keep going. Let's collapse those into two. Two into one. Courage and keep doing what we're going. Never mind. Just good. So I think the second thing I want you to look at it is it doesn't so matter how much, what you're talking about, also how you present it is very, very important. You may present something insignificant, but the way you're presenting it is not overbearing, is not assertive. You don't have to be overbearing because you have a view somewhere and you overbear. In other words, you want everybody to buy into your views. Just do one thing if you want to not be bothered. You know that by the time people ask you to be on a board or to be part of the community or whatever, what that means, they have accepted you. They have accepted you. And with that acknowledgement that they have accepted you, so just talk and then look at that as your contribution. Because whether significant or not, it's just contribution. Right? It's a judgmental call. People make things insignificant or not. That's another layer. But you look at it as your contribution, don't slot your contribution into if trivial or significant or significant. Just contribute. You just think about this is my contribution. Don't think anything about anything else. Because what's happening now is people who you are contributing something, they might be judgmental about your statement, your expression of your views. But if they also change and they become judicious, that will make a whole difference in your views. So in other words, it may not be a problem that your thing is trivial or insignificant or not. It might be their problem that they're always in a judgmental mode instead of being in a judicious mode. You see, there's a difference between being judgmental and being judicious, right? Being judgmental, it's just looking things in other lens, like the lens of ignorance, fear, aversion, and greed, attachment to views or something like that. They might be there. That's their problem. That's why whatever you say, they feel it's insignificant. It may not be having anything to do with yourself. That's what I want to tell you in my second point. It may have nothing to do with your statement, whether significant or not. It might be on the other side of the equation. So they have to change. Those people who see your statement, then you have to know that maybe they're judgmental, they're not judicious. So in other words, the way you present it, even if you feel it's significant, you just say, this is my humble submission. In my view, this is how it's supposed to be. Not this is what's supposed to be. In my view, this is what I contribute, like that. So in other words, the way you say it also is very, very important. Then people might really consider it, oh, this is what's going on. I think is when you are confronted, the third point is when you're confronted or somebody say, oh, what you contributed is piece of nothing, blah, blah, like this kind of thing. Then, well, don't confront them again. You just say, well, that's the best I can do. So I think this is the way how I would tackle this kind of situation. But I know where you're coming from because I've ever been big meetings and organization in USA. And every time I contributed, I say, why these people don't take my view? Is they know better than me or what? And I saw that what I was contributing was very meaningful. But I mean, I was a drop drop in an ocean, because I was the only African among over 50 North Americans in the meeting. And for them, they had more experience in running the organization. For me, I was just simple yogi. Would challenge things and see nobody takes things, So I think for me, I would always consider that I've done my best. I will not always think, oh, they're not taking my view. And I just said, that's what I can do. Okay, another one.
Okay, when views are very close and important to a person, would it be better then for the person to leave the group because the others don't agree with him than to argue about his views with the others in the group?
No need to argue. I mentioned there's no arguing, but also I don't want you to be a quitter. There's what you call 6 ways of settling disputes, conflict. One is avoiders, others are comforters, others are compromisers. We find these 6 ways of models. I don't want you to quit because your views is not being considered. Just hang in there. Hang in there and then know whether they accept it. Just be part of it. I mean, there's no argue. Definitely, I wouldn't encourage you to argue. Just contribute and know that even if your views are not taken, let them go with their views and be there, because your contribution, I told you, presence, to be part of it, and not to win arguments. In fact, one of the tenets of I think Olympics was to participate, not to win. Yeah, so now you participate as a player, and if views are not taken or are similar to other people, no, if they're similar, just be there and let them take similar views. Yours, when it's in a meeting, yours may be taken or not. And when it comes to meetings and all these things, there is people who have to listen and people have to talk. For me, when I feel many people are talking and I play the part of listening. And that's also a good contribution to listen. Not always talking. I think, I don't know who said that we have 2 ears and 1 mouth, so that we can listen more and talk less. But in a meeting, I see people talking more, and listen less. So why don't you become part of the listeners? And actually, for me, 2 times I had meetings recently with my family and say, wow, why are you not talking, Bhante? They were saying, oh, you people, they were just blaming me, oh, why am I quiet? And then later on they say, oh, I know you are very smart. You wait until everybody have exhausted their points and you bring yours last. So I think for me, it just make a lot of sense. Listen, meeting finishes and then point. If they ask why you didn't contribute, I say my view actually bears some similarity with Sister Eileen, so that's why I didn't talk. Yeah. Yeah, no need to talk. I think listeners, that's why Sabbakas listen. Listen, but of course don't be what we call inactive, dormant. No. Nod, some nodding, yeah, wow. For me, sometimes I'm invited to give talks on conferences, and sometimes they don't put me on a list and just show up. They say, wow, this African has to talk about something. So when I reach there, I have nothing to talk because I wasn't on a program. I've traveled, I'm jet lagged, nobody put me on a program. And then I reach Vietnam or Indonesia. Please, there is all this senior monk, but 5 minutes, can you give a talk? You're the only person from Africa. I know the solution for those people. I just go there and say, wow, Sister Eileen, what they talked resonates with me. Actually, it's really just perfect. I mean, so I just keep on summarizing what other people have been listening to. And then I just throw maybe one thing to appreciate them for taking me from all the way from Africa to the place. And maybe I can bubble a little bit of a few things and then finish. No need always to be talking. No. Just really go over other people's views and say, well, combine all these views, they all agree with me and you synthesize them and summarize them and maybe come up with a view that provide a combination of them, and you're good to go. It's not always they have to take on my view or this view. No, combine them and say, wow, this all makes sense. Finish. Another one.
Thank you for your advice. Now we come to the last question. How does one handle a black sheep who is always giving problems while others are trying to tolerate her or him?
Wow. Problem makers. Now, this you see now, this kind of thing is for problem maker. The Buddha gave a very, very good discourse, whereby, because of we don't have much time, but the Buddha gave a discourse whereby you find somebody who's not good, verbal behavior not good, physical behavior not good, mental behavior no good. The Buddha asked, what do you do with this kind of person? You treat them as a sick person and give them medicine. And that's medicine. What's that medicine? When people are suffering, what teaching the Buddha gave? Practice compassion. Compassion towards that person is the best way to go. I'm telling you. All organizations have been as a difficult person. Even everywhere, I don't know every place where I've never seen a person in organization whereby I say, this person is very, very difficult. One way is to consider as your teacher. Again, as I told you before, other advice I gave you, those who don't do anything. For the difficult person themselves, they don't know that even they're difficult. They are trying to do their best, actually. That's what is very interesting. They're trying to do their best. You can do also things like that, but then a difficult person, you have to look at what level of difficult they have. Are they difficult physically, or verbally, or mentally? Then, if at least they are physically okay, okay, you start. If they're physically okay, their verbal behavior and mental behavior are not okay, then just consider only their physical behavior and just look at, again, the same saying, look at the silver lining. Try to appreciate at least the good thing they are contributing. Because sometimes can be an organization and they're very difficult, but still you find something, maybe that person good at, it might be team leader, marketing, this and that, talking to new teachers to come, is good at talking at the teachers, but cannot talk to the president. So, I mean, always find good thing in them, but if you cannot find, that's the first solution. You try to find out as much as possible, at least one good thing, either on a mental level, physical level, or verbal level. If you fail, the second solution is actually don't try to change them. Because most of the time we also go wrong. We try to change the difficult person, all right? So now we try to practice compassion towards them. Yes, so now we have to really have a proper attitude, because most of the time when we have a difficult person, we try to change them, bend them to our way. But that person, you look at, oh, that personality, they have a strong personality behavior and all this kind of thing. So you may not change them in one day, but then another solution is talk to them. But this is what we call non-violence communication. Then you address the issue, not just ignoring the person. You tell them, when you say this during our meeting, I felt respected. This is very, very important. Whenever you tell people how you feel, they are going to become less problematic. So, but don't tell them, oh, when you did this, it makes us angry, we cannot operate. No. You tell them, okay, when we said this, and this happened, and you responded this one, I felt disrespected. So whenever you express to people that they are disrespecting you because of their actions, people can change actually. The problem is when you tell them, when you do like this, I'm angry at you. No, you do this. So they feel defensive. And then they become even more difficult. Tell them how their action, maybe that's why they're difficult, because they have never even known what their action impact you. So the key is actually to tell them, okay, when I hear saying this in a meeting about the budgets for this next year, whatever it is, I feel disrespected. That's how your action affect me. If you never tell people how their action affect you, they become always problematic. But if you tell them one day, and that, okay, your action, when you do this action, I feel disrespected and all this thing. Then they say, oh, whenever I do this, that's how I'm viewed. Then they might change slowly by slowly. And that's what I can say in a short period of time now. The rest you find out always a solution, but don't try to change people, try to change yourself first, and slowly by slowly exercise compassion, because that person might be sitting on a big trauma, and that's how they behave the way they behave. So you try to find out why these people behave the way they behave. Look at their history. Is that they've been behaving in that way? What's their nature of personality? Are they confrontation? Are they avoiders? Are they quitters? So try to find out, to collect some information, research about this person. Look at their friends. Look at their spouse. Look at their relatives. How do they feel? Do they have the same view that they're holding in an organization? So there's a lot to it, actually. Somebody is not just difficult in one instance like this. It might be a character they have been building for such a long time that you may not change in one day, but you might change yourself, your approach, your attitude towards them, the way you relate to them. For me, I keep difficult person in the organization because, again, they teach me a lot. I view difficult people as my teachers too, because they teach me how to be patient and how to go to the tool of the Buddha, toolbox, and look for what the Buddha did. Buddha, I'm telling you, are difficult people. The discourse itself, conflict. The Buddha had to leave. Can you imagine? You're then monks and then they become problematic and you have to leave. This happened to the Buddha who was enlightened, but what about us? So what I'm saying, the technique the Buddha did was amazing. He actually used the avoidance approach to the conflict. And now it's actually the supporters of the monks that kind of taught them a lesson by actually boycotting to talk to them and give them support. So yes, you can use different whatever until people soften and maybe become less difficult. But yeah, there's a lot of ways actually. But try whatever way you use, be more mindful and be more compassionate toward the person, because it might be many layers why they're difficult in that dealings. Thank you very much. Yes. I think I end the talk. As you know, I arrived yesterday here, and it took me about 3 hours at the airport to clear about retesting COVID and all these things, and the jet lagged and all these things. But that's what I can do in a short time like this. So I share the merit now. Okay. BTO Vajantu Sabarogo Vina Satumate Wantantrayo Skidi Gaiko Vavada the City Sanita Buddha Patano Tataro Damawantante Ayuano Scambara Sabamangara Kan Sabadevata Sababudan Bavena Sabadaman Bavena Sabasangan Bavena Sadasoti Vawante Akasata Yamata Deva Naga Mahitika Punyatam Anmodita Chiramara Kantu Lokasa Sana, Chiramara Kantu Desana, Chiramara Kantu Mampara, Saitavata Chakame, Samparam Punya Samparam, Sabiri Van Modan to Sabe, Bhutan Modan to Sabe Sata and Modan to Sabasampati Sitia, Idame Nyatina Ho to Zikita Ho to Nyatayo, Idame Nyatina Ho to Zikita Ho to Nyatayo, Idame Nyatina Ho to Sukita. Tunyatayo sadhu 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 sadhu
Sadhu, sadhu. Thank you, Bhante, for the insightful talk. Next week, we have Aya Upeka, who will be giving us a talk titled Let Go. Let go of what? We hope that you have enjoyed today's session and we look forward to seeing you next week. Thank you.